Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Axion.
I'm Sit.
And we are continuing our way through Exdeath's Castle in Final Fantasy V and discussing Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Looks like the floor is fire.
The floor is lava. Oh, this is nice.
What is lava but drinkable fire?
No! No! No, it's not!
The forbidden Kool-Aid. Now that I have thoroughly derailed your train of thought with that.
So, we've been hinting at this episode coming for a while now. We've made passing comments about it and noted that we're going to get to this. We're not going to fight this group. No, I'm not interested.
Why not? Look, they want to play. They even brought a volleyball to throw at you.
I guess it's not going to let me run away.
Apparently not. I was wondering, because you said, let's run away, and then you started fighting them, so I wasn't sure.
Because it wasn't letting me run. But, anyway. This is going to be kind of a more meta episode. This is going to be less about the story itself, and more about the story and the community of Harry Potter as it is in the modern day. And that's going to include a heavy focus on J.K. Rowling.
Real quick, I can never remember if it's supposed to be Rowling or Rowling. I think it's Rowling. I remember a lot of U.S. media saying Rowling, but I thought that was wrong. I don't know.
It doesn't
JKR.
matter.
Let's say JKR.
Anyway, so this is going to be the inevitable episode of talking about how Rowling... Okay, so that is affected by Reflect. Okay, so that's good to know. Talking about Rowling in her vocalizations and opinions on certain things, and how that has affected her writing. So, it is well known at this point that Rowling has developed a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for here?
Set of
reputation. Yeah, and for her set of opinions. Namely, how she has been involved with certain minority communities. I'm going to need to get ethers at some point.
And I'll be the first to admit that I have found myself rather insulated from that because I don't really do social media. So I don't keep up on a lot of discourse, as the kids these days are saying it. But even so, it has, even in my rock, under which I live quite comfortably, the mold is very nice, it has become impossible to not have some of those opinions filtered through. It's that vocal.
Yeah. And it has an effect. If you were not aware, this is, I guess, a heads up, that that people of influence have influence. That may be kind of a reductive way of putting it, but what Rowling and people like her say matters.
Yeah, a clearer way to put this would be, if you have, through your creative works or other, just through your position that you have managed to either acquire through earning or birth or whatever, if you have reach, you inherently have a platform from which you can speak and be listened to, or at least heard, by many, many people. And it becomes, to some extent, where people have to differ on what level of that they are willing to accept from someone as to how it affects whether or not they carry that influence into how they receive the work made by that creator. Like, does what an author says on social media or that gets in the news, so on and so forth, change the way you receive their material? If you are one of the groups against which the author has chosen to, position themselves, do you feel able to still read that work that you once enjoyed, but do you still find yourself able to enjoy the work with this change?
Oh, thank goodness. Same point. So, part of the reason I wanted to bring this up now is because this is a good point in the story to point out just how this has manifested in the story itself. At the time that the books were being written and originally read, Rowling did not have quite the same platform that she has in the modern day. I don't remember if Twitter just didn't exist back then, or if it was just much smaller. It definitely just did not have the same level of influence that it has nowadays. As just the place for certain kinds of...
Twitter was founded in March of 2006.
Okay, so that would have been a little after this was written? I don't remember exact dates.
Yeah, the last Harry Potter book, Deathly Hallows, came out in 2007. So, Twitter did not really exist as of the writing and publication of most of the series.
Well, that was an annoying spell. So, okay, so Twitter did not exist at the time.
I think that was still the day of, like, ICQ and MSN and AIM and everything. But I think, like, most of the time, if like you wanted to be in contact with an author, like you had to go to like their website and find them on like discussion forums and things, which they still exist, but it's not as collated, for lack of a better way to put it, as social media feeds are, where everything just gets filtered through in a following and boiled down into very short, unnuanced sound bites because social media, let's get rid of all the nuance so we can't have a discussion.
So,
yeah, anyway.
People were not quite as...
so
this
is your episode.
Yeah, point being, people were not quite as aware of Rowling in the same way they are with her today. As a result, and as a result of the average age of her readership, most were not quite as aware of some of her opinions. As such, this sort of thing only really came through in how she wrote and how she described certain characters. And there's 3 characters specifically that I want to focus on in this particular case, though there is definitely a case to be made for others. The first one is actually going to be a comparison between 2, and that is comparing Dudley Weasley, or Dudley Dursley, rather, with Molly Weasley.
That is a comparison that I would not have probably come to.
So... Oof? So, I do have a point here. Dudley Dursley is described in the very first book as simply fat. In every book after that, Rowling uses increasingly outlandish descriptions of how fat he is, culminating, at least thus far, in book 4 with roughly the size of a blue whale. Insert clip from QI here. Meanwhile, Molly Weasley is described simply as either plump or generously proportioned. She is never used. The word fat is never once used on Molly Weasley, except by Malfoy. And everyone in the room who isn't a Slytherin gets incredibly offended when he does. This sets up a very distinctive double standard. It is okay to call Dudley fat, and to do so with extremely hostile, extremely aggressive euphemisms. Oh, that is actually walking in the lava. We're gonna run back to the save point. It is not, at least unless you are, again, a villain, okay to insult Molly Weasley about her weight, or to refer to her in less than generous terms, because she is not a villain. She is not an antagonist, therefore it is not okay to refer to her in the same way that you do Dudley. Now, on the surface of this is solely, it's okay to say bad things about bad guys, it's not okay to say bad things about nice people. And there's an argument to be made both ways for that. Oh my word. We're gonna just not fight you. I underestimated how nasty that was going to be. One could theoretically argue there's also an element of sex in the situation where... sex and gender, where it is okay to say bad things about fat boys and men, where it is not okay to say bad things about fat women. But the argument I have
prefer
against...
we use large. If you're gonna start off by framing that like it's not okay to call people fat, we probably should be consistent with that.
Okay, fair point. That was a misspeak on my part. I apologize.
Yeah, it's just like if you're gonna say, "How dare Malfoy call them this?" but it's okay to call Dudley this, and then you say the same thing. Okay, Malfoy.
Yep, that was a misspeak on my part. I apologize. Let me run.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not personally offended. I'm a little heavier than I should be, but yeah, I know that there's, merit to words. And yeah, I have kind of noticed that, and I think it might be partly from my experience as a girl growing up and seeing all of the magazines targeted at girls and convincing them that they are not the right body shape, not pretty enough, buy our product. Yeah, I can see why there would be a lot of media written by women wanting to maybe try and push back against how often girls get told that they don't have the right body.
The one argument
but I do not think it is fair for it's okay for some but not for others.
The other thing is Rowling herself is not consistent about that because she uses similar terms for Marge in Book 2 that she uses for... Book 3, sorry. That she uses for Dudley. So that's
and
what I was trying to get to about this whole thing is you could make that argument, but it's a bad argument because Rowling herself disproves it.
Yep. And there's also the idea of think about what she did to Marge. Marge's punishment for being cruel to Harry was to get inflated even bigger.
Yep.
Dudley's punishment for being just in the wrong place at the wrong time was for Hagrid to make him grow a pig's tail. For him to eat something and grow a very, very long tongue. She tends to be very specific in how she punishes people that she thinks are too large.
Yep. But only if they're bad people.
I knew that was going to happen. So yeah, there's how she talks about body types. What else?
There is... seriously, that's a dead end? And I can't get that open. Is there a hidden switch somewhere? Oh, we're gonna die. I do not remember how... Oh, that's a staircase. That's a staircase. I am severely lacking on supplies. Wait, what floor did that say? Keep.
You might want to heal.
I don't have enough healing supplies. I need to leave. Yep, looks like I'm gonna have to leave the dungeon. Alright, so I think we've said about everything that we can say about that situation, other than just generally pointing out this is something she does. Second one. Rita Skeeter. So we discussed Rita as a character herself back a couple of episodes ago, how she's the embodiment of everything that's wrong with the paparazzi. She's... I didn't want to Whatever. Of course. How she's... I didn't want to use Magic Hammer. Thank you, game. I don't want to step on the skull! Finally. Okay, so... she's just generally described as an unpleasant person. If it was just that, then we could just leave this whole thing alone. But Rita Skeeter is also described in a certain set of physical terms that Rowling doesn't use for any other character to my knowledge. She does not talk about any other character in the whole series that I'm aware of in the same way that she talks about how she describes Rita Skeeter physically. And that is specifically describing her as having broad shoulders, a blunt face, and mannish hands.
And I'll admit, I was skeptical when you mentioned this because I don't think I focused on any description of Rita's appearance other than she had, like, those cat's eye glasses and blonde hair. For some reason, I did not remember anything else. I only remember the glasses because of her beetle form.
I didn't want to use that again. Thought it was on Goblet. So, this would be, on its own, probably ignorable as just another incident of Rowling makes characters who are coded as villains ugly, or unpleasant, or unattractive. And if it was that alone, that is crude and childish storytelling, but it's not anything evil. The problem is when you couple that with Rowling's behavior in the modern day. Specifically, how she behaves and talks about transgender people. How she has interacted with the transgender community in the modern day, and the way she talks about them, especially on Twitter. It seems to be very obvious in hindsight that Rowling was either trying to code Rita as a trans woman, or trying to give her traits that she associates with trans women in the process of describing her with traits that she wanted to code her as a villain with to make her appear unpleasant.
Yeah, like I'd said, the initial reread, I kind of missed that. But when you mentioned it, I looked back again. Yeah, those descriptions are definitely there, and with the, as you said, the hindsight of Rowling's social media presence in recent years, it's very hard to mistake that for anything else.
Yep.
I don't know if that was intentional at the time, if it was subconscious or what, but it is a valid reading of it now with the context we have.
Yep. The other reason that I don't think that it was unintentional was because Rowling has written another series. I cannot remember the name of it all off the top of my head right now, but it's not a children's series. It is a story, a novel for adults. If I remember correctly, it's a murder mystery. And one of the major critiques that many readers have had for this other series of Rowling's is that she made the villain a transgender woman using a lot of the harmful stereotypes that have been used against trans people over the past several years.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the series either. I did hear it didn't get great reviews. Like, I heard someone said the first book had mentioned, like, the first book reviews are just like, you can tell they're a brand new author, and she had, at that point, 7+ books under her belt, if you count, like, the side tie-in books with the Harry Potter series.
Right.
So that's rather telling of the quality.
Yeah, she did write it under a pen name, I believe.
Yeah. And yeah, like, not to delve too deeply into things, it's like, there are good writers who can manage pulling off this sort of thing with delicacy. She is not one of them.
Very much so. Actually, I'm gonna buy more ethers.
Because, like, I don't want to advocate just paint your villains with whatever bigotry brush you want to prove a point. And that's not what I'm saying, but I don't want to fall into the trap of never ever be willing to use different demographics outside of a heroic light for fear of portraying them in a negative light, because at that point you only get cookie cutter characters and the mono minority stereotype, which is almost as insulting to readers. Just write people like people. Let them be good or evil and shaped by their environment and interesting characters who are more than just a cardboard cutout stand-in. Which, again, is asking a little bit much of this series in hindsight. I loved it when I was a kid, but it's not aged as well as I thought.
It has not. But yeah, this is something that was not as obvious to general audiences at the time. One, because at the time that Harry Potter came out, transgender rights were unfortunately not being taken as seriously as they are today and in the past few years. And secondly, because we were not aware of some of Rowling's personal proclivities. And now that we know those and have the context to kind of understand where some of these stereotypes and some of these depictions are coming from, a lot of stuff makes more sense in hindsight. And that's kind of where it is at the moment. This is... Even if that wasn't Rowling's intention when she created Rita Skeeter, that is the way the character is projected. And not without reason. This is how Rowling has shown that she behaves and how she thinks about certain kinds of people. And she has shown absolutely zero inclination to not write them that way in her stories, as we have seen with her other non-Harry Potter tales.
You know, it's almost like, though, she'd want to maybe stop and think about writing about an unpleasant blonde woman making inflammatory messages where everybody can read them without any basis for them. But, you know, forethought.
But yeah, I've pretty much dropped everything that I had to discuss on this particular topic.
I think it was an interesting discussion, and there was definitely stuff that I had whiffed on when I'd reread, so sometimes it's nice to get another look at things. So, yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it, and we will pick up next time, which I believe will be our final episode on Goblet of Fire.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap this one up, and hopefully we'll be done with XS Tower sometime soon. See y'all then.
Bye.